colleagues and I are fierce advocates of limited government. And we're also committed guardians of free speech and the free marketplace of ideas. We do not want to impose burdensome government regulations on your industry. However, we do believe we have an affirmative duty to ensure that the engine that processes as much, as we've said today, 90% of all internet searches is never used to unfairly censor conservative viewpoints or suppress political views. Your challenge today, and in the days ahead, is to convince the members of this body that Google and your industry peers will implement your own sufficient safeguards and solutions to this problem so that the government doesn't have to intervene. Here's a question. In previous hearings and discussions, Google has described the Trusted Flagger program as a source for recommending content be removed from your platform. Recently, Google released a transparency report on content removal, which revealed that out of the 7.7 million automated flagging removals from your platform, YouTube, around 70% of that content was removed before it had received any views from the public. Here's the question. How does Google ensure that content removed in the automated process is not merely because of philosophical or political differences?
Congressman, it's an important question. As you said, YouTube is committed to being a platform for freedom of expression, and we go to great lengths to do that. We only handle videos in the areas of clearly defined policies we have. We do have automated systems, but we assess it, we later spot check it to make sure the system is working as intended. We respond to feedback. As content creators, you can appeal if you think something was removed erroneously. But it's really important to us that we provide a platform for freedom of expression, but enforce the rules of the road on areas where we have said, but we are very transparent about the areas and the clear policies with which we do those things.
You've spoken a lot today about objectivity. That's the goal. We applaud and appreciate that. As you know, Alphabet's incubator Jigsaw has introduced Perspective. It's a tool that uses machine learning to filter online discussions for, quote, toxicity, unquote. This to me raises issues of how Google's parent company is using machine learning to filter speech that is viewed as unproductive, such as ad hominem attacks or offensive language or the like. When creating a tool like Perspective, what steps is Google taking to protect conservative viewpoints from being considered toxic by subjective reviewers as the program progresses?
Congressman, Perspective, provided by one of our sister organizations, Jigsaw, it's a platform for publishers to use. So the publishers get to define what they want acceptable or not, and then that's what the tool provides for them. But I think your point is valid. I mean, we don't want to be in the position of just editorializing publisher content, and we are just providing a tool for publishers to better drive the content on their platforms.
You mentioned the appeals process if a content provider has their material flagged. How quick does that appeals process work? In other words, what's the review period?
I think it varies. We prioritize areas which are sensitive. For example, areas like terrorism is something we prioritize very significantly and higher up in the queue. But we are ramping up our resources, and our goal is to do it as soon as possible. But sometimes it can be a matter of hours. If it's areas around copyright, we have implemented Content ID. We have a system by which we can automatically detect and respond right away back to copyright owners. So it's a constant work in progress.
In the committee's last hearing with Google's Ms. Juniper Downs, we discussed this. I raised the case of the Alliance Defending Freedom's content being removed after being reported by a trusted flagger on YouTube. The flagging organization was the Southern Poverty Law Center, which has a kind of an infamous reputation for being, I would say, a radical left organization that opposes conservative viewpoints. What criteria does Google use when granting trusted flagger status to third parties such as the SPLC?
Today we first want to clarify one thing. Our trusted flaggers don't remove content. They can flag content for us to review, and we review flag content. It's mostly used by law enforcement, many nonprofit agencies in areas, important areas like child safety, terrorism, and so on. Southern Poverty Law Center is a trusted flagger. People can register. Last we checked, they've never flagged a single video on our platform. We have reached out to a wide variety of organizations, including conservative organizations. We would be happy to take your suggestions to add organizations as trusted flaggers.
Appreciate that. We need a little objectivity in the reviewers, and I'll yield back.
The gentleman's time has expired. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Liu. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is now the fourth hearing in a series of ridiculous hearings on the free speech of internet companies. A significant portion of this hearing was a waste of time because the First Amendment protects private individuals and corporations' free speech rights. Now, there are things that Google does unrelated to speech that I disagree with. But when it comes to search algorithms, your prioritization, what videos you want to show, the First Amendment protects you. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions. Some of them are fairly basic, and I apologize, but I feel like I have to educate some of my colleagues on how the U.S. Constitution works, and feel free to answer yes or no. So my first question is, we here on the Judiciary Committee are the government, and Google is a corporation, correct? Yes or no?
Yes.
All right. The First Amendment limits what government can do in regulating the content of speech. It does not limit Google, but Google does have to follow corporate laws and other laws. And under those laws, you and your board of directors have a fiduciary duty to your shareholders, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And one of the ways that Google generates a profit is when consumers use your search engine, they watch videos, some of them click on ads, they use your applications. Isn't that one way you generate profit?
That's one of the business models we use.
And if consumers were not getting the search results they wanted, or not getting the videos they wanted to see, they might start moving to your competitors. Isn't that right?
Every Monday when I run my management meetings, yes, we worry about, users have a lot of choices, so we work hard to earn their trust every week.
And so let's say you figure out that the number one thing users want to see are dog and cat videos. Under the U.S. Constitution, you have the absolute right to promote dog and cat videos. I'm not saying you do that, but you do have the right to do that if you wanted to. Isn't that correct?
Congressman, I'm not the expert on First Amendment, but generally I think that's right.
I thank you. So last week when I got notice we're going to have another one of these hearings, I did a search on Google. I searched for Congressman Steve Scalise. He is a Republican. And I hit the news tab, and the first four articles that come up are generally pretty positive. The first one is from Town Hall, a generally conservative publication, about his book, Back in the Game. Second article is also about his book, Back in the Game. Third is about him talking about election results. Fourth is from Fox, another positive article about his book, Back in the Game. You don't have a group of people at Google, they're sitting there thinking, hey, we like Steve Scalise, so we're going to generate positive articles on these search results. That's not what's happening, right?
I'm very glad to see Congressman Steve Scalise fully recovered and back, but we don't deal with individual queries and, with any viewpoint, and so these are our algorithm.
Nowhere in your programming code does Congressman Steve Scalise even show up. Isn't that right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
This is a common manipulation tactic I've seen coming from some of these right-wing channels, and it's very disingenuous, and it can confuse many people. Let's say, for example, that I am the most dishonest person out there, right? I'm just a crook, straight up, and somehow I run for office and I win to be the president of the United States. Right? Even vice president of the United States, right? And I get in office and I do what I've always done. I lie, I scheme, so there's always different scandals going on and something in the news about I did this and I did that, and, a lot of negative coverage. So then you have folks that will look at that and point to it as bias. Say, look at how most of the coverage of the Debate Me channel is negative. Right? Look at how unfair they treat the Debate Me channel. They got nothing positive to say. Every day in the news, I see, Debate Me channel lied about this. Debate Me channel lied about something else. Debate Me channel is doing some kind of scheme about this thing. And, that's just being unfair because the Debate Me channel is a left-leaning guy, and you know, the conservatives don't like him, and that's why, you know, there's all these negative news stories, you know. And then when I search for Debate Me channel on Google, I'm seeing all these negative articles about Debate Me channel used to be a scam artist and a con man. It's like, it's totally detached from reality. I mean, if you're gonna be very dishonest and very corrupt, of course there's gonna be a lot of negative coverage about you. Of course, some would argue that it's all made up, but that would be a stupid analysis of the situation. Anyway, let's continue.
Now I'm going to do a real-time Google search for a very similar term. I'm going to change one word. So I'm going to search for Congressman Steve King. I'm going to hit the News tab. First article that pops up is from ABC News. It says, Steve King's racist immigration talk prompts calls for congressional censure. That's a negative article. But you don't have a group of people at Google sitting there thinking and trying to modify search results. Every time Steve King comes up, a negative article appears. That's not what's happening, right?
We always operate for any query with the same set of principles. We are trying to reflect what is currently, you know, if it is newsworthy, what is currently being discussed about that phrase.
Thank you. So let me just conclude here by stating the obvious. If you want positive search results, do positive things. If you don't want negative search results, don't do negative things. And to some of my colleagues across the aisle, if you're getting bad press articles and bad search results, don't blame Google or Facebook or Twitter. Consider blaming yourself.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is how you troll Google like a boss. This is the Debate Me channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well.